You don't know it yet, but something has already changed. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now, in this very moment, while you quietly wonder if anything beautiful is still waiting for you, your story has already begun to shift. The silence you've been living in is not empty. It has been carrying a message all along. A message that has traveled through heartbreak, lonely nights, unanswered prayers, and impossible distances just to find you. And if you listen closely, you'll notice that your heart has been preparing for something it cannot yet explain. The strange part is, someone else's heart has been preparing too, and what they are about to reveal could change everything you thought you knew. You have asked yourself the same question more times than you can count. Why did love leave? Why did every promise seem to disappear before it could become your forever? Why did the people who said they would never walk away become strangers without warning? You searched for reasons inside yourself. You blamed your imperfections. You questioned your worth. You even wondered if you were simply meant to watch other people find happiness while your own dreams quietly faded into the background. But what if every closed door was protecting you from a story that wasn't yours? What if every goodbye was making room for the one hello that would finally feel like home? There were nights when you stared into the darkness, hoping for a sign. Not a miracle. Just something small. A whisper. A dream. A feeling that life hadn't forgotten your name. And sometimes, without realizing it, you received exactly that. A song played at the perfect moment. A stranger smiled at you in a way that felt strangely familiar. A feather rested at your feet. Numbers repeated everywhere you looked. You dismissed them as coincidence because hope felt dangerous. Hope had disappointed you before. But those moments were never random. They were gentle reminders that invisible hands were still arranging pieces you couldn't yet see, and someone was unknowingly walking toward the same destiny. While you were trying to heal, someone else was learning the hardest lessons of their life. They carried regrets they never spoke aloud. They replayed old conversations inside their mind, wishing they had understood love before it slipped through their fingers. They smiled in public while privately questioning every decision they had ever made. They thought strength meant pretending everything was fine. But beneath that carefully built mask was a heart slowly awakening, and each painful lesson was quietly pointing them toward you. What makes this even more unbelievable is that your lives have been connected long before your paths fully crossed. Every disappointment, every delay, every unexpected change, none of it happened without purpose. It felt unfair because you couldn't see the entire picture. Imagine standing inches away from a masterpiece. All you notice are scattered colors, confusing shapes. Nothing seems to make sense. But the artist never paints from your perspective. The masterpiece is only visible when the timing is right, and you're much closer to that moment than you realize. Perhaps you've noticed yourself changing lately. The things that once broke you don't have the same power anymore. You still remember the pain, but it no longer owns you. You're becoming softer without becoming weaker. Wiser without becoming colder. There is a quiet strength growing inside you that wasn't there before. You thought you were simply surviving. In reality, you were becoming someone capable of receiving the love you've always prayed for. Because the version of you from years ago couldn't have held what is coming now, and somewhere, without even knowing your full story, your soulmate has begun to feel something impossible to ignore. It arrives unexpectedly. In quiet mornings. During crowded afternoons. In dreams they can't fully remember after waking. There is an unexplainable feeling that someone important exists beyond the horizon of their everyday life. They don't know your name yet. They don't know your favorite song or the sound of your laughter. But their heart keeps whispering that someone is waiting. Someone worth becoming better for. The strange thing about destiny is that it rarely announces itself with loud celebrations. Instead, it hides inside ordinary moments. A delayed trip. A changed schedule. A missed phone call. An unexpected invitation. Events that once seemed frustrating begin weaving together into something astonishing. What felt like interruptions were actually redirections. The path has never been straight because the destination required perfect timing, and that perfect timing is beginning to unfold. You may still carry invisible scars from people who made promises they never intended to keep. Some wounds healed on the surface while remaining tender underneath. Certain memories still visit when the room grows quiet. You wonder if love always leaves eventually. You wonder if trusting again is simply another way to prepare for heartbreak. Those fears are understandable. But they are not your future. They are echoes from places your soul has already outgrown, even if your heart hasn't fully realized it yet. Your soulmate carries scars too. Their journey has not been easier than yours. They have questioned themselves. They have cried behind closed doors. They have experienced loneliness that no amount of success or distraction could erase. There were moments when they believed they had already missed their chance at real love. Yet every disappointment slowly removed the illusions they once chased. Every painful ending taught them how to recognize something genuine when it finally appeared, right now, even as you read these words. Unseen conversations are happening beyond your awareness. Hearts are changing. Decisions are being made. Courage is growing where fear once lived. Someone who once hesitated is beginning to choose differently. Someone who once ran from vulnerability is discovering that running no longer brings peace. Transformation is rarely dramatic while it's happening. Most miracles are quiet until the moment they become impossible to ignore. You have probably asked for signs without realizing how many have already surrounded you. Certain dreams felt unusually real. Familiar places suddenly carried new emotions. You sensed someone before meeting them. There were moments when your heart raced for no obvious reason. These experiences were never asking you to predict the future. They were preparing your spirit to recognize it when it arrived, and then something unexpected begins happening inside your soulmate. A truth they avoided for years refuses to stay hidden. They finally understand that chasing temporary happiness has left them exhausted. They stop pretending they don't care. They stop settling for empty connections. For the first time in a long time, they become completely honest with themselves. And honesty has a way of opening doors that pride could never unlock. Imagine receiving news so deeply personal that it melts every wall you've built around your heart. Not because it erases your past, but because it finally explains why your past happened the way it did. That moment is closer than you think. It isn't built on fantasy. It grows from healing, courage, and perfect timing. The kind of timing only life itself could arrange. Still, there is one final lesson both of you must learn before everything changes: patience, not the painful kind that feels like endless waiting. The sacred kind that quietly transforms you while nothing seems to be happening. Seeds spend a long time hidden beneath the soil before anyone sees green leaves breaking through the earth. That hidden season doesn't mean life has stopped. It means growth is happening where human eyes cannot yet see. You may feel tempted to give up now because you've waited so long. Maybe you've told yourself that expecting good news only invites disappointment. Maybe you've convinced yourself that protecting your heart means expecting less from life. But your heart was never created merely to survive. It was created to love, to receive love, and to become a home where hope could live again. The most beautiful part hasn't even arrived, because your soulmate is carrying words they never imagined they would have the courage to speak. Words shaped by regret, by healing, by awakening, by countless moments when they almost gave up but somehow didn't. Every experience has been leading them toward one conversation, one confession, one life-changing truth. When that moment comes, you won't recognize it because of grand gestures or perfect circumstances. You'll recognize it because something inside you will become incredibly still. The confusion that haunted you for years will suddenly lose its voice. Questions you've carried for so long will begin answering themselves without anyone forcing them. But before those words reach your ears, one final unexpected event will shake both of your worlds. It won't look like a blessing at first. In fact, it may seem like everything is falling apart one last time. And that's exactly when the message you've been waiting for finally begins. For one impossible moment. It will feel as if the universe has gone silent again. You will wake up expecting progress, only to find another delay. Your phone will remain still. The answer you've been waiting for won't arrive when you expect it. Doubt will quietly slip back into your thoughts, whispering that maybe nothing has changed after all. It will sound convincing because disappointment has spoken that language to you before. It knows exactly how to imitate truth. But this time, something deep inside you will refuse to agree. A quiet peace, one that wasn't there in the past, will gently remind you that not every silence means abandonment, and that unexpected calm is hiding something extraordinary, at that very same time. Your soulmate will be standing at the edge of a decision that could alter both of your lives forever. They will realize they can no longer live half-heartedly. They can no longer bury their feelings beneath responsibilities, distractions, or fear. The life they carefully built without complete honesty will suddenly feel too small for the truth growing inside them. For the first time, they won't ask themselves what is easiest. They'll ask themselves what is real. And that single question will begin breaking chains they didn't even know they were wearing. You have no idea how many times they almost reached out, their hand hovered over the phone more than once. They typed words only to erase them. They imagined conversations that never happened because fear convinced them they had already waited too long. They wondered if you had already moved on. They worried that their silence had cost them the one person who truly understood their heart. Every missed opportunity became another reason to hesitate. Yet every hesitation also made one truth impossible to escape. No matter how hard they tried to forget, your presence continued living inside their soul. Meanwhile, your own journey has been quietly changing in ways you barely noticed. You stopped chasing people who only appreciated your kindness when it benefited them. You learned that peace feels better than constant confusion. You discovered that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Little by little, your heart became lighter. You smiled more naturally. You laughed without forcing it. You began creating a life instead of waiting for someone else to create it for you. Without realizing it, you became the very person you once prayed to become. And that transformation sent a signal into the unseen world that echoed much farther than you can imagine. Some people call it coincidence, others call it destiny, but there are moments in life when two separate stories begin moving toward the same page without either person seeing the entire book. This is one of those moments. There will be signs that seem almost too personal to ignore. A familiar song will suddenly follow you everywhere. A place you haven't thought about in years will unexpectedly return to your mind. You'll dream of conversations that feel more real than memories. Certain words will keep appearing in different places until they become impossible to dismiss. You won't fully understand why your heart suddenly feels awake again. You'll simply know that something is approaching, even if you can't explain what it is, and your soulmate will be experiencing the same mystery. Without knowing why, they'll begin remembering details that once seemed insignificant. A smile. A voice. A feeling they tried to convince themselves was temporary. They'll realize those memories never truly disappeared. They were simply waiting beneath the surface until the right season arrived. Every attempt to silence them only made them stronger. Then comes the moment no one could have predicted. Someone unexpectedly tells them something. Not a dramatic prophecy, not a magical message, just a simple conversation, a few ordinary words spoken at exactly the right time. Sometimes truth arrives through the most ordinary voices. Those words will shake them more deeply than they expect because they will hear exactly what their heart has been trying to say for months. Suddenly every excuse begins falling apart. Every reason for waiting loses its power. Every fear that once looked like wisdom reveals itself for what it truly was. Fear, nothing more. While all of this unfolds beyond your awareness, you may actually believe life is becoming quieter. You may think nothing important is happening, but unseen doors are opening one after another. People are entering and leaving each other's lives. Plans are changing. Flights are being booked. Jobs are shifting. Schedules are rearranging. Tiny choices, made by countless people who will never know your name, are creating the exact path needed for one extraordinary meeting that has been years in the making. That is how destiny often works, not through one giant miracle, through thousands of invisible details moving together with breathtaking precision. There is something else you need to know. Your soulmate has been carrying guilt, real guilt, not because they stopped caring, because they finally understand how much time was lost while they were trying to become someone they thought the world wanted them to be. They wish they had understood sooner. They wish they had been braver. They wish they had trusted what their heart was trying to tell them instead of listening to fear. Those regrets have become heavy enough that they can no longer carry them alone. That is why the good news is coming, not because life suddenly became perfect, because honesty is finally becoming stronger than fear. The confession they are preparing isn't rehearsed. It isn't polished. It isn't designed to impress you. It comes from a place much deeper than words, a place where masks no longer exist, a place where pride finally surrenders, a place where truth becomes more important than comfort. When those words finally reach you, they won't sound like every promise you've heard before. You'll notice the difference immediately, because genuine love doesn't try to convince you, it simply tells the truth. And truth carries a peace that pretending can never imitate. Still, there remains one final obstacle, one last shadow standing between both of your hearts. Neither of you expects it, neither of you sees it coming. For a brief moment, it will seem capable of destroying everything before it even begins. Old misunderstandings will suddenly resurface. Past fears will demand attention one final time. Circumstances beyond your control will test whether this connection is built on emotion, or something much deeper. That test will last only a short while. But during those days, every choice will matter. Every word will carry unusual weight. Every moment of patience will become an act of faith, and just when it appears that the distance has become impossible to cross, your soulmate will make one decision that no one, including you, will ever see coming. That decision will not be made in front of a crowd. There will be no dramatic music, no perfect sunset, no audience applauding from the sidelines. It will happen in complete silence, a silence so deep that they will hear their own heartbeat louder than the noise of the world. For a long moment, they will simply sit there, staring into the distance, realizing they have reached the end of every excuse they once believed. They will finally understand that fear has stolen enough time. Pride has already taken too much. Waiting for the perfect moment has only created more empty moments, and in that quiet place, they will whisper something no one else will ever hear. I can't lose this anymore. Those simple words will become the beginning of everything. You won't know they spoke them. You'll be living your ordinary day, completely unaware that another heart has just made an extraordinary promise. You'll answer emails, finish errands, make coffee, or look out a window without realizing that, somewhere, someone has chosen courage over comfort because they could no longer imagine a future where you remained only a possibility. The invisible thread connecting your lives will pull a little tighter, not enough for you to notice, but enough for destiny to begin moving faster. Over the next several days, strange things will happen. Conversations you never expected will begin. People from your past may suddenly reappear, not because they belong in your future, but because life has a remarkable way of closing unfinished chapters before opening beautiful new ones. You may hear from someone you haven't spoken to in years. An old memory may unexpectedly surface. For a moment, you'll wonder if you're moving backward instead of forward. But you're not. Life is clearing the hallway before opening the next door. Every unfinished emotion is rising one last time so it no longer has power over what comes next. That process won't always feel comfortable. Healing rarely does. Sometimes healing feels like remembering. Sometimes it feels like crying over something you thought you had already forgotten. Sometimes it feels like questioning everything one final time before finally finding peace. Don't mistake that process for failure. It is preparation. While you're releasing what no longer belongs to you, your soulmate is doing exactly the same. They're letting go of old guilt, old expectations, old versions of themselves. They're discovering that love doesn't ask them to become someone else. It simply asks them to become honest. And honesty changes everything. One evening, they'll find themselves looking at the sky longer than usual. Nothing extraordinary will seem to be happening. The stars will shine as they always have. The wind will move gently through the trees. The world will appear completely ordinary, yet something inside them will feel different. For the first time in years, they won't feel afraid of the future. Instead, they'll feel drawn toward it. That feeling will surprise them, because hope had become unfamiliar. They had spent so much time protecting themselves from disappointment that they almost forgot what genuine anticipation felt like. Now it's returning, slowly, quietly, irresistibly. And here's the part no one could have predicted. At almost the exact same time, you'll experience a moment that seems insignificant. Maybe you'll pause in the middle of your day for no obvious reason. Maybe you'll suddenly smile without knowing why. Maybe a deep sense of peace will wash over you while you're doing something completely ordinary. It won't make logical sense. There won't be any visible reason for it. But your soul will recognize something your mind cannot yet understand.